Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Libra, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of December 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. Here it is. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is via the first link in the description box. And do you know what? Let's just leave it there for now and see what's going on with you. So, can I have 3 cards for Libra, please? Well, okay, right, well, we'll take that one, but I feel like I kind of knocked it out more than anything else. So, we'll take these 2 together. We have the Devil in reverse, I'll just cover that up, and the Chariot card. What about current energy for Libra, please? Oh, 6 of Wands, lovely. And what's coming towards Libra for December, please? There it is. We have the 9 of Swords. I like this 9 of Swords though, so please don't panic about that. We've got the 6 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, and really this is just with the cards that we have on the table at the moment, this is panning out to be a really quite glorious reading. It's funny how it seems to be one way or the other with signs this month. There's no middle ground. It's either really, really tricky and really harsh, or things perhaps are picking up some sort of momentum. Now we have to be kind of measured in the way that we talk about momentum and whatnot at this point, because we are currently in a Mercury retrograde. Mars retrograde starts proper as of the 6th of December, I think it is. And that's going to go on forever. It's like end of February that stops, and then there's a shadow period after that. This Mercury retrograde actually finishes mid-December, December 15th, something like that. But by the time the Mars retrograde is properly wound down, there we go, I forgot what I was talking about there for a second, we will be in another Mars retrograde in Aries. So, Mercury retrograde in Aries. They're relatively frequent. I mean, they happen 3 to 4 times a year, Mercury retrogrades. So, you know, they're not dreadful. It's just that there isn't a lot of forward momentum at this point. That's interesting. God, the tower just dropped onto the floor. Anyway, it's not forming part of the reading, so it's not going to be included, unless, of course, it decides to come out, and it may. So, I mean, what we've got across the top here is really resoundingly positive, Libra. So you're definitely falling into the camp of people for whom December seems to be a little easier to manage than for others. I'm thinking Cancer is a good example here. But let's be cautious about, you know, dramatic forward movement, because it's probably not going to happen for at least 4 or 5 months, right? But there are little steps that we can take that make us feel like we're winning. So that's good. Tell me about this Devil in reverse and the Chariot, please. So we have the 10 of Cups, we have the 5 of Cups, and we have the Page of Swords. Tell me about the 6 of Wands, please, for Libra. Oh, thank you. We've got the 2 of Swords on its side with the 9 of Swords. Can I go one more for that, please? Thank you. Page of Pentacles now. And what about this 9 of Swords here? We have the Temperance card, we have the 4 of Swords, and we have the Ace of Cups, and that, yeah, that would make an awful lot of sense. We have the 7. It's the 7. To count there. 7 of Cups appearing here at the bottom of the deck, right? So that does speak to some level of confusion, and that probably would help explain some of what's going on here. But let's start over there first. This here is your recent past, and when I say recent past, what I mean is any time from, I don't know, this morning to maybe 6 weeks back from now, right? Give or take a week or 2. It'll be different for each of you. But what we have here is this Devil card, Capricorn energy, Saturn energy, and also the Chariot, which is Cancer, showing up really, really prominently. They actually share an axis, interestingly enough. And Yeah, well, there's a whole rabbit hole you could go down there, but we'll not do that this time. The fact that the devil is reversed is a really, really good sign. It's a really, really good card to come out from the off, because when it's in the upright, it talks about all of those things that we really don't like to experience. So we're talking about toxicity, we're talking about fear, anything that's coming from a place of fear. We're talking about anxiety. We're talking about the things that essentially drain your energy and don't really give you anything back, right? Because it's not supposed to. When it shows up in the reverse, what has happened here is we have recognized where our own personal demons are at play, and we have put in the work to reduce the level of fear that the devil is trying to cultivate, right? Because when the devil cultivates fear, then all of our actions, everything that we do thereafter, is taking that into account, right? It's avoiding situations that would put us into fear, or it's keeping us stuck where we are, stuck and trapped where we are, so that we don't try and change direction. It's really interesting, Libra. It feels like there's something very, very specific around this for you. This isn't like a generalized fear or a generalized anxiety. It feels like it's something really quite specific. A specific fear that you have that may have been triggered in one way or another over the course of the last year, perhaps. And we must remember that the South Node is actually finishing up its business in your sign as well. I think it's the 25th of January. I've got it on a sticky note actually on my screen on my computer, but I can't look at it yet because I've got OBS up. Oh, do you know what? That's nonsense. I can absolutely do that. Let me hover the mouse above the thing. Put it on there. 29th of January, nodal shift, North Node into Pisces, which means the South Node hauls its arse out of your sign and puts itself in the sign of Virgo. That is going to be a relief. You're going to feel a sense of tangible relief when that happens. So we are on the homeward stretch now, right? So during this time, while the South Node has been doing its work in your sign, it is entirely likely that things that are of the nature of that which you would be afraid of would be coming up to be dealt with, to be sifted and sorted and put in the right place for you, right? But where the devil represents being stuck, being trapped, being somewhat wedded to a particular way of behaving, a particular circumstance, a particular relationship, the Chariot, by contrast, is looking to move forwards. It represents will and determination, goal setting, goal achieving too. But it speaks about a really deep level of balance that is created within oneself when we're not trying to disavow any part of ourself, right? When we are allowing a process of integration to happen, and we do that by owning all bits of self, the dark side and the light side, the negative and the positive, the feminine and the masculine, actually, anything that sits on a polarity and has some question of duality about it in the first place. That's what we're talking about here. Now, additionally, for me, the Chariot card can talk about shadow work. That's very specific to me, though. I don't think I've ever seen another tarot reader see the Chariot like that, but that's the way that I see it, because we do have this duality, and for me, the Charioteer is the consciousness in the center that is balancing out these two sides of us, right? So as we are able to move forwards from this very level place, and Libra, for you, that would be a very important thing, because of the traditional associations of Libra with balance and whatnot, then we've got some kind of forward motion happening, not stuck, not trapped, not disavowing any part of self, but in fact moving forwards in some sort of integrated whole in order to achieve something. And it might be something specific, and I would say actually with that Six of Wands there, it probably is something specific, but it could be more generally just a way that you choose to live life from this point on. Now, when we come down here, we've got the Ten of Cups, the Five of Cups, and the Page of Swords. The Ten of Cups is about community, it's about family. Sometimes we talk about happy family, but essentially it's more than just 1, 2, 3 people together. It's a cohesive whole that's made of many people, many emotions. And I've often said that in order to have a properly functional Ten of Cups, what you need is all the people that are showing up to be in a Nine of Cups state, right? The card before, because the Nine talks about the individual state of managing one's emotions, not projecting, all these kind of things, right? And when you come together, when you've got a group of people who are on this more evolved state, where they're not looking to blame or castigate others, then what we have is something that can function, something that can be so much more than the sum of its parts, which, when you have a whole group of people who are showing up in a really evolved state, it is really saying something. But we've got this idea of community that has come to an end in some sort of way. Now, there could have been family fallouts, family could have moved away, family could have emigrated, family could have done all sorts of things, right? Because the important thing about the Ten of Cups that we haven't mentioned yet is that because it is a 10, it represents an end. The ultimate goal of this Ace of Cups over here is to turn itself into a 10 of Cups. And the 10 of Cups then must also be prepared to go through a death and rebirth process, right? An ending, a completion, the fulfillment of a cycle, and then allow itself to kind of disintegrate, to make space for the Ace of Cups to come in again, because everything in the tarot is cycles, everything in life is cycles, and this is the cycle that we're talking about. You notice that we've got this card over here representing the end, and then the card of the beginning showing up here too. Now, there's a little bit of a way to go through before we get to that Ace of Cups, and to some extent you could describe this process here of where you have been, where you are right now, and where you will end up in December as the transition, right? The crossing of the liminal place to get from one side to the other. And because the Five of Cups is a card of grief and loss, it's a card of feeling somewhat abandoned and isolated, possibly from family, but certainly from those people who have previously lit you up in some sort of way. It could be, for some of you Libras, and we should throw this in here, that for some of you, you have consciously walked away from people that are no longer giving you what you need, that you do not feel you can give what they need now. It's like a kind of parting of the ways going on. And even if that hasn't happened under the best of circumstances, there are feelings here, uncomfortable feelings around transition and loss that need to be worked through. And we have that Page of Swords, which is actually indicating that you are doing exactly that. So where you may have been stuck before, you've certainly freed yourself and you're moving forwards. Do you know where you're going? Possibly, possibly not. I would say possibly because of the Six of Wands, but then also potentially possibly not because of the Six of Wands. And I'll explain what I mean about that in a moment. But either way, we've gone from things being fairly comfortable, as I feel like the Ten of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles both indicate this sense of comfort and reliability and security and stability and all of these other things that I talk about in terms of these cards, to something that feels inherently much more unstable. And yet you're sticking with it, Libra. You're allowing yourself to work through it. For me, the Page of Swords is about that conscious creativity. Maybe conscious is the wrong way to put it. I was talking to a different sign about this. I forget who it was. There's a quote that's attributed to Steve Jobs, and it was something along the lines of creativity simply being the ability to connect dots that other people didn't realise were connectable. Right, kind of going, oh, this thing can go with this thing, and then we've created a whole new thing. The process of expanding the mind, which is what I see the Page of Swords doing, whether through information or assimilation of information, comes by connecting dots, particularly when it's dots within ourselves, so that we can begin the process of starting to see the world very differently. I mean, all of us use our mind to interpret the world, right? What's going on right now, what has happened in the past, and then by some extension, what is possible to occur in the future. Now, this says here that there's a pain in your heart, but nevertheless you're moving forwards. and nevertheless you're looking to expand your mind. You're not feeling like you need to curl up on yourself and recover, right? This is not a grief-stricken, I need to hide away for the next year to lick my wounds or anything like this. It's like, well, I had this and now I don't have this and that hurt, but I'm learning this from this situation, you know? So when we move into your current energy, we have the Six of Wands, and this card is Jupiter in Leo, and traditionally it is associated with success. It's another card that talks about victory and success. The Six of Wands is a card that it's one of those groupings of cards that for me I feel cannot be read in isolation. It must be read in addition to its preceding card, which is the Five of Wands. It is the instability, it is the strife, it is the conflict, sometimes the competition that we must go through. And that card is Saturn in Leo, that we must go through before we are able to taste the riches of success, right? Whatever benefits that brings. And, you know, to the victor go the spoils and all of those sorts of things. It does not mean that you're about to be, you know, showered in wealth or gifts or, you know, expressions of love from someone you've idolized from a distance or anything like that. Because sometimes the benefits are simply the ability to live peacefully in one's own skin, and I think that that is a highly underrated activity, personally, that seems to be missing from quite a lot of people right now, right? And this is where things like projections and whatnot come in, and how very damaging they are to everybody concerned, right? So we have this idea of there having been some sort of struggle, some sort of conflict, whether it was external conflict to you, as in with another person, or whether it has been a deep internal conflict. I'm inclined to say, with the Devil here and the Chariot card here, and also the transition from Ten of Cups to Five of Cups, that in all likelihood for most of you this is going to have been an internal state, kind of wrestling with one's own demons and trying very, very hard to understand not just whatever situation has gone down for you, but also your responses to it and how you may have, you know, where the responsibility that you had lay in that situation and whether you met that responsibility. Now, this is huge because this is growth and this is really, really important, Libra. Very much of the nature of South Node in Libra, actually, to be fair. And so when I said before that I could see that there would be a possibility that you did have an idea where you were going, you did have an idea of what that success would look like, that was because of this Six of Wands here. But then we have to have a look at the cards that are underneath. We have the Two of Swords on its side. Now that's interesting. It's not entirely blocked, because for me that talks about what we don't see, that we don't see. It's somewhat of a subconscious shield that stops us engaging with things that we don't feel like we are emotionally ready for, right, or psychologically ready for. It's the blind spot, the big blind spot. That's what it means when it's that way around. For me, when it shows up reversed, there is an awareness of a blind spot that we have developed, right? We may not be able to quite see what it is yet, but we know that it's there and we know that it's hiding something behind it. When it shows up sideways like this, we have either the idea that something is transitioning from one direction to the other, right? So we're going from that state of complete obliviousness to, oh, okay, hang on, there's something going on here that I need to investigate. So it could be in motion, or it could be here that actually this energy is present, but it's not yet been fully actualized, right? It's not being fully activated, in so much as your awareness hasn't quite hit it. And I think it's important to look at these cards before I tell you about the second interpretation of the Six of Wands, because we've got the Nine of Swords there, which is, it's an ugly card. I mean, it's visually very jarring, and it's supposed to be, right? It's the difficulties of the mind, where, you know, if you remember what I said about nines representing how we manage whatever suit they're talking about. So Nine of Cups, how you manage your emotions. Nine of Swords, how do you manage your mind? Or does it manage you? Does it get the better of you? Does it bring anxiety and, you know, fear of catastrophe to your door? Does it make you lose perspective? because that for me is a key interpretation of the Nine of Swords. When it shows up in the upright, there has been perspective lost somewhere. But then additionally, we have the Page of Pentacles showing up with it. It's the second page coming after a traditionally negative card, which is suggesting to me that there's an engagement process going on here between the more negative energy of the card and then the willingness to go in there and see what it's all about, right? So the second way that I see this Six of Swords, Six of Wands showing up here is in relation to how you quantify success for yourself. Has it changed? Has it evolved? Is it in the process of evolving and changing into something else right now? Now, it could be that at points in the past, for example, I'm not saying this is true for all of you, but for example, maybe you were incredibly materialistic at points in your past, and something has happened within your community structure, whether that's family or friends or whatever, that has had the effect of showing you where your perspective was off, right? Where you were valuing the wrong things. And so whilst you may have felt successful while your perspective was one way, as it has now 180'd and turned into something different, and I do feel like there is a change of perspective, big one, showing up here. Suddenly you can see where maybe you've lost more than you thought you had, or maybe you have more than you thought you had, right? It's this redefinition of what success looks like to you personally, Libra. And this doesn't even actually have to be over the last 6 weeks or so. I mean, we could be talking about a broader overarching theme of, in the last 18 months, how have your core values changed? How has what you valued changed form? And, you know, how can you lean into that more? The Page of Pentacles for me, this card here, is often about discovery of value. In order for the pentacle to pass from page to knight to queen to king, everybody involved in that chain needs to understand exactly how important what they have in their hand is, right? They have to have a true sense of the value of the thing. And it has to be valued correctly, because wherever the pentacle suit is concerned, we're talking about long-term, slow movement, right? It's a value that's accrued over time. But for me, the Page of Pentacles will also talk about how you value yourself. It'll talk about how you value what you have to invest. So your time, your care, your effort, your love, your attention, all of these have a pentacle-like quality to them. And so what we've got here then, I think for most of you at least, is a dawning realization that perhaps the wrong things have been over time valued, or the wrong things have been valued incorrectly. No, that was just a messy sentence really, right? But value lies somewhere other than where you thought it did. Now, this is not a big crushing revelation, because like I said, these 2 pages here actually feel to me like a willing and enthusiastic engagement with whatever is showing up for you here, right? And I think a lot of the energy of December is going to be really quite internal for a lot of people. And bear in mind, we're in a double retrograde period right now. And, you know, the retrogrades themselves, people get very upset about retrogrades. And yeah, okay, I understand. But they perform a really, really important function. And they allow us to go back over things. Now, a lot of people get very frustrated by that. Like, I don't want to go backwards, I want to go forwards. And it's like, yeah, but if you go backwards 2 steps and you go back over what you've done, what you've thought, what you've said, you know, you quite literally dot the I's and cross the T's on everything. When that energy starts moving forwards, like, you can get going at a run. If you don't take care of these things during a Mercury retrograde, when the energy starts moving forwards instead, what's going to happen is there's going to be the revelation of the things that you've missed because you were hurried, because you were in a rush, because you were trying to skip over steps and get to the fun bit, you know, which is whatever the future is. Details are lost. So Mercury has this, 3-4 time a year retrograde period to allow us to go back over all things that are mercurial in nature, your thoughts, your speech, your words, whether written or said out loud, communication generally, transport issues, contracts. All of these are ruled by Mercury. And we have an opportunity to go back and make sure that we've done them all correctly. And more often than not, we will find something that we missed. Here, like I said, because the perspective has been off, the wrong things have been valued, you've been given an opportunity here. You are in the middle right now of an opportunity to make sure that everything is balanced and even and exactly as it should be. And tweak it where it's not. Most importantly, right? It's not that anything is fucked here. Like, it is literally, here's an opportunity to straighten things out. You've been gifted some time, and particularly if this revolves around what success looks like for you versus what you were told by society, friends, family, work colleagues, the media, whatever. You know, that you have to go in a straight line and it has to look like this, otherwise you are not successful. You have to have this much in your bank balance, you have this kind of status at work, you have to be driving this kind of car. If you can reevaluate objectively, and objectivity, Libra, is one of your strong points. If you can reevaluate objectively what it is that you valued that needs now valuing differently, and how you can kind of rearrange your life a little bit to better reflect what you truly hold dear versus kind of what you've been going along with. And by extension then accept a rejigging around of what success looks like to you. Then I think that's a really good use of the retrograde energy. I think it's a really good use of the time that you have been spending on this so far. Because when we move into December, we have the Nine of Swords again. Now, these two Nine of Swords are of a very different quality. I mean, let me put them side by side so that you can look at them, right? Now, on first glance, we do have the Nine Swords, right? The imagery is similar in so much as there's the depiction of the Nine Swords. I'm just wondering if I want to go down a whole 5-minute side quest on explaining a particular thing to you. Do you know what? I don't think I do. I will save that for another time. But we've got the Nine Swords, and we know what the Nine Swords themselves represent. But the setting that these Nine Swords are in is very, very important to the relative quality of what these swords are talking about within our own life, right? So here it's very ugly. The backdrop of it is very ugly. We have this, jarring, nasty image of, just bits and pieces of previously sentient things going on there. It's nightmare fuel is what it is. But Fabiola Strani's taken an entirely different approach here with this Nine of Swords. We still have the Nine Swords, and we have to accept that damage has been caused. Right, actually, I don't know if you can see that terribly well. The swords are plunged into the earth, and the earth is bleeding, right? So there is wounding, there is damage that has been inflicted by the swords, right? The perspective issue can go one way or another, right? So it isn't always about spiralling down and thinking everything's so much worse than it is. The Nine of Swords could quite accurately come up and depict a situation where we have been a little naive about something and assumed it's better than it was, right? Both of these can indicate the crushing reality of something kind of showing itself to be what it actually is. But the eye is drawn more to what is going on in amongst the swords than the swords themselves. It's like they're present and they've done damage. But they've been there for a while now, right? The swords themselves are turning green. And we have this plant life that is growing up through the swords as something much more healthy and holistic than the cold, hard steel of sword. And right at the top, we have this little flower, which is reaching up towards the sun. Now, for me, symbolically, this seems to be an image that talks about the return of hope after things have been very, very hard. And that's why I love this card so much, because it says, yes, we can endure much that is uncomfortable. We can, in fact, lose our way and lose our perspective many, many times in life. But hope springs eternal. And there's always the possibility that what grows through this experience can reach out and towards the sun. And, you know, is it a redemption arc? Is it warm? Is it? I don't know. You tell me what you think here. But the emphasis is less on the swords and more on the flower. There is an acknowledgement of the swords. Things have been hard, but we're really getting somewhere. And it's really further borne out by the Temperance card, the Four of Swords, and the Ace of Cups at the bottom of the deck here, because the Temperance card talks about balance, yes, equilibrium, yes, again, very important for Libra. But it also talks about profound healing, and it talks about the act of alchemy, as we alchemize what is painful and difficult and awful within us, transmuting quite literally our own personal lead into gold. Everything that I just said there is encapsulated here in this Temperate card of Temperance. And then we have the Four of Swords, which speaks about taking a break, taking a step back, being quite meditative and circumspect about things. But a lamb is a symbol of peace too. So we go from the implied Three of Swords, which isn't on the table, but is nevertheless implied, because remember, everything goes in cycles. So where we have the Four of Swords, we have at some point had the Three of Swords. We've got something much more still, much more rested, much more peaceful, being indicated by these cards here. Still of the Suit of Swords, but changing into something else. Whenever you have a card that is numbered 4, we are talking about foundations and the importance of foundations, the cultivation of new foundations that is very conscious in nature, right? We're like, we're doing this. It's not just happening. We're doing this. We're actively involved in this. Finding a way to be peaceful in spite of difficult situations that we are experiencing is a skill. It's not a gift, it's a skill. It's something that needs to be worked at and maintained too. And as I'm talking to you and I'm explaining everything here, like, there is strength is just stamped all over this whole arc of this reading. It's about personal growth. It's about you dealing with things better than you used to. But it's something a little bit more than that. And that's demonstrated by this Ace of Cups here. It's the ability to be able to care for yourself enough that you will not allow yourself to spiral. You will not allow yourself to inflict a sense of self-flagellation upon you. You know, that when things are difficult, when everybody's struggling, like, we tend to spiral down. Like, it's what we do. And this will go a long way to show what somebody's relationship is with themselves, right? We spiral into grief cycles, shame cycles that they're pernicious. They don't allow you to escape, because then when anything negative happens, it's like, well, this is my fault because I'm such a whatever I am, you know? Instead of thinking about ourselves in the way that we would treat someone that we really cared about, right? Using children as an example is usually a really good one, right? If you've ever seen a child absolutely bereft with themselves, thinking that they, you know, something that they've done means that they themselves are a bad person, it's completely fucking heartbreaking. And we as adults do the best that we can to persuade them, you know, and convince them and reassure them that it's not that they are bad, They simply made a mistake, and that's okay. We can move on from this, and so on and so forth, right? And yet, as adults, we play the same very subtle shame game with ourselves non-stop. We show how we have a complete lack of self-belief, how we do not believe that we deserve to be cared for, that we deserve everything that happens to us that is less than stellar. And these aren't overt conscious conversations that we're having with ourselves, although for some of you it might have been. It's much more subtle, it's underhand, it's pernicious. Like I said, it's just this script that is running in the back of the head somewhere. And the reason that I'm kind of telling you all about this right now is because what I am seeing in these 4 cards for December is an entirely different energy showing up. There is no grief cycle here. There is no shame cycle here, right? Not one that is going round and round and round. Instead, there is a peaceful foundation of the mind. You have, to some degree or another, Libra, actually mastered your own mind such that you can sit with the things that are difficult, with the things that maybe need to change about you, and not feel yourself falling into something really dark. You may not understand entirely what it is that you're looking at, but you're willing to look at it with objectivity and without any corresponding shame. Not that there should be any corresponding shame, right? But we tend to conflate the two. And then we've got this Moon in Taurus card of the 6 of Pentacles, right? We're talking about grounded, healthy, solid emotion that you are capable of investing into self here. So is everything chaotic and you don't really understand what's going on? Well, that's most of the Western world at the moment, I would have said. Do we need to understand it all to know that it is the way that it is? No. Do we have to know exactly how we feel about this or that or the other? No, we don't. Do we have to be secure in self and know that whatever happens, we're okay because we are looking after ourselves? Yes, that's the point. So whether, it's information that's coming up about ourselves that we're seeing for the first time, or whether it's information that's coming by way of some sort of external source, this peaceful, dare I say, almost stoic kind of approach that you're taking to life at the moment is really going to bed in properly over the course of December. Now, I said to you that it seems to me that the readings so far are falling into one category or another, which is deeply challenging or actually really quite positive. And even though you have cards that indicate deeply challenging energy, it doesn't seem to be rattling you at all. In fact, you're taking from it exactly what is the right thing to take from it. And when you do that, you can't help but feel like you're winning over here, because you're getting deeper and deeper insight. You've got more and more tools in your arsenal now that you can use on this very, very profound work of trying to work out who you are and show up in the world in the most powerful way possible, because there are exceedingly few people alive at the moment who do not have at points a crisis of self-worth, a crisis of confidence. We're going through this really enormous consciousness shift at the moment where everybody's being asked to kind of push to make themselves bigger. And this feels different to the usual cycle of I don't know, hitting middle age or something like, right? There's an intensity about the moment that we are in, and it does not feel to me like it's of the same order that people would have experienced at different times. I don't know, through the 80s and through the 90s and through the 2000s, right? This has got a different quality because it's happening on a bigger scale. There is, well, we're lifting the bar on the collective unconscious, right? And I just feel like you found the perfect way to balance yourself, and that, Leo, Libra, is your contribution to the collective unconscious, because like this is what you're here to do, to balance those polarities, balance those dualities, balance those extremes, and find that place of absolute peace right in the center. So it might feel to you that there isn't really much going on outside of you. You know there's a lot going on inside of you, because there's a lot of things that you're balancing, a lot of things that you're working on. But the work that you're doing on yourself right now is an order of magnitude more important, actually, I think, than you're giving yourself credit for. It's like you're tying up the South Node transit in your sign with a beautiful bow, getting ready to blow it on with a kiss to Virgo. You know, we still have 7 weeks, 8 weeks. But I think the majority of the work is done now, and if you can sit and be calm within yourself, if you found that centre of peace, if you found that kind of meditative place, you're not giving your power away anymore. And you feel like you're much more likely to be able to take those bigger steps that will be required from you from 2025 onwards, January 2025. I really, really like this. I really like this, Libra. Like, you've no idea how excited I am about the fact that you're, like, nailing this shit, you know? So, I've just been prattling on for ages. I'm actually going to go over to the extended now. I just kind of forgot where I was. So, if you would like to join me, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Vimeo, or you can do that on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not for you, no shade, not a problem at all. This is really good, Libra. Like, I'm really proud of you without wanting to be condescending at all. Like, I can see how challenging certain things have been. And it's like you've lost the need for drama somewhere. But it's a need for drama that I don't think that you'd ever really realise that you were indulging too much. And now suddenly, like, you don't need it. And you're like, ooh, yeah, okay, I am changed, I am different. You haven't lost any of your spark. You've just stopped that massive energy leak. And that makes you very powerful indeed. Right, okay, to the extended. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.